Good evening. I'd like to call the Shenandoah County School Board meeting to order, the November meeting. Ms. Shepherd, do you have a recommendation for closed session, please?
I do. I recommend the Shenandoah County School Board convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider several personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A14, and to discuss scholastic records involving the discussion or consideration of admission or disciplinary matters concerning any student of any state school system under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to that effect, please?
Yes, I move that the Shenandoah County School Board convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider several personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A14, and to discuss scholastic records involving a discussion or consideration of admission or disciplinary matters concerning any student of any state school system under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gutschall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and we will reconvene at 7 p.m. I need a motion to reconvene in open session, please.
I so move.
Motion made by Mr. Barlow. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the board is now in open session. Shenandoah County School Board hereby certifies by roll call vote that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open session required by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies. And second, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening in closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Shenandoah County School Board. Each member responds, I do, I so certify when called by the roll call vote.
Ms. Walsh,
I so certify.
Mr. Gutschall,
I so certify.
Mr. Barlow,
I so certify.
Ms. Rutz,
I so certify.
Mr. Keller,
I so certify.
Mr. Helsley.
I so certified. Okay, next, we will have the invocation by Ms. Rutz and, Trav, you have that slide. We lost an employee, Miss Debbie, Gokenard. Ms. Gokenard, served us for 20 years as a paraprofessional, and maybe we can have a moment of silence before you give the invocation, if you don't mind.
Sure. Please bow your heads. Father in heaven, we commit this meeting to you. Come and reveal your will in every aspect of our life and our ministry. As we discuss the affairs of the school, we ask for your will to be done. Show us your purposes. Enlighten us that we may know how you want us to accomplish our task. And we desire your glory and your blessing in all that we do. Direct our thoughts, our words, decisions, actions towards the right path, and help us to stay on track. Let your will be done as we plan and make decisions. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Let's honor the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Gutschall. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Rutz. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The agenda has been approved. Okay, Ms. Shepherd, recognition for this evening, please.
Thank you. First off, I would like to introduce Miss Julie Neese-Whitaker and Darla Mumal, instructors of the Competent Learning Model, to recognize the staff that completed the CLM certification.
Good evening. My name is Julie Whitaker, and I'm the lead Competent Learner Model coach for Shenandoah County. The Competent Learner Model is a team-based professional development package that includes training and instructional tools designed to accelerate learning in students with significant educational and behavioral challenges. This evening, I would like to call up Valerie Sabanko, Terry Stevens, Sarah Mumal, and Megan Holler. And Ms. Stratton, if you could come up. We here at Shenandoah County Public Schools are part of the Shenandoah Valley Regional Program, and we have the largest implementation of CLM in the world. And one of the ways that we're able to grow and maintain the largest implementation in the world is by growing our in-house staff. Tonight, we would like to recognize Shenandoah County's most recent certified CLM coach, Valerie Sabanko. Valerie received her coach certification in June of this year. Valerie is a recently retired special education teacher from North Fork Middle School. The coach certification process qualifies individuals to independently coach the implementation of the Competent Learner Model. In order to be certified, Valerie must have had to successfully coach a team of individuals through the CLM course of study, as well as coach a classroom through phase 3 in the implementation stage. Valerie's coach certification is the culmination of 6 years of training as a CLM instructor and coach.
Good evening. I'm Darla Sue Mumal, and I am also a certified coach of CLM. I'm a special ed teacher at Central High School currently. We also have, what Julie already introduced, the 4 staff members. So I want to reiterate that we believe in order to develop competent learners, it's necessary to develop effective instructors, and Competent Learner Model provides weekly classroom coaching and an online course of study to develop these effective instructors. In order to complete the CLM course of study, these ladies have put in over 120 professional hours of development. They have completed a sequence of 12 units, which is a 2-year process, as each unit requires an online portion and an in-class application piece. Congratulations to Terry Stevens from North Fork Middle School, Julie Sabanko, and Sarah Mumal from W.W. Robinson, and Megan Holler of Triplet and Central High School. I also want to point out that Sarah Mumal and Megan Holler are the first ever Gen Ed teachers to take this course of study. So not just in Shenandoah County, but in the Shenandoah Valley Regional Program, and that consists of multiple counties. So they're the first ones to do that, and we're super proud. Megan.
While you guys are lining up, I want to thank Julie because she is so enthusiastic about this program, and the whole train the trainers model that CLM has been so important, and it's not a small task for one person, but then to have this many people who are certified in Shenandoah County is amazing, and I really appreciate all your hard work. Darla, yours too.
So congratulations on that great accomplishment. I know it was a lot of hard work.
Thank you.
So Mr. Todd Lynn will be talking to us this evening about the 2022 VSB Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award winners. Todd?
Good evening, Ms. Shepard, members of the school board. It is my pleasure to let you guys know that we were recognized as an award winner for the Virginia School Board Association Career Development. We took, for the first time ever, we took 11 students, 10 from Triplet Tech, 1 from our biomed program, and we put them in a phlebotomy class in the afternoon. We did a little Tetris with their schedule. Out of that, when it was all said and done, we had 8 certified phlebotomists that came out of that program, so 8 out of 11. That was a value add for our students. They didn't do it for any other purpose other than they wanted the certification. So it was pretty awesome that we had students that left us as dual certified, both as nurse aides and phlebotomists. They were very well received in the workforce, where I believe all of those students are in the workforce in healthcare, I believe, in their CNA students. And our one student in our biomed is also working in the workforce as he's taking a gap year as well. So it was absolutely an amazing experience for them. We're getting ready to start our second cohort in the spring. We also have dove into heavy equipment operator as well. So we had 6 students last year. Getting applications for that as well. So that's a value add for our students that they take very seriously. And it was a great opportunity for them. And we were very excited to get some recognition from the Virginia School Board Association. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Pangle with Triplet Tech announces State Fair of Virginia Skills USA winners.
I only bring winners when I come. Good evening, everyone. Triplet Tech recently competed in Skills USA competitions at the State Fair of Virginia. We had 22 students compete in 8 contests. We brought home 5 second-place ribbons, 2 fourth-place, 1 fifth, 4 sixth-place, 1 seventh-place ribbon, 4 eighth-place ribbons, and 1 ninth-place ribbon. But behind me are all the, well, we're missing 2, but behind me are our first-place winners, and I brought them with us tonight. Well, I'll let Ms. Holler talk about that first, but Ms. Holler, why don't you come up and talk about the 2 that are missing and what they participated in.
Phoebe Alexander and Caitlin Lusby were my 2 that participated in the bulletin board demonstration. It's a promotional bulletin board, and our theme this year was Our Time Is Now. So they created a super awesome bulletin board promoting triplet and how now is the time to be in our trades. One of them right now is on her way to an FCCLA conference in Ohio, and the other one is sick, so that's why they're not here tonight with us.
All right, next we have Sienna Morel, who was first place in CPR first aid.
Hi, I'm Sienna. I'm going to talk about how all the competition, what we did. We did all the CPR and AED that is necessary to get certified. And then after we did the AED, we did, they had asked us some questions, such as what FAST stands for, and how, like, what we can use and do in a real life scenario.
So obviously you were the best at compressions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Crispin, you bring your student up. We got first in carpentry at the State Fair.
So this year at the State Fair they did cabinetry, and for the cabinetry they did multiple different stations around, like what to do for cabinets, like, such as leveling a board, putting a knob for a drawer, different things like that.
It's usually residential carpentry, so, you know, framing a wall, mini wall, but this year they changed it up because there's not many cabinet making programs in the state of Virginia, so they're trying to promote that trade. So we did really well for not having a cabinet making program.
So we're very, very proud of all our winners, and this is just a warm-up for when we do district, state, and national competition. So we're ready. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sienna, I have a question for you while you've got lined up. Did you do the phlebotomy program as well? Okay, I was wondering if you were going to be as good as your mom, because she can take some blood. She's good at it. Okay, put it on your list. It runs in the family.
Congratulations, Sienna and Chris. What a great accomplishment. And the last thing on the recognitions are the VSBA awards recognizes school board members for their dedication, time, and hard work in improving boardmanship through skills through VSBA meetings, conferences, board development, and training, active involvement in the association. VSBA members earn credits for the Academy Awards, which are based on participation from July 1st to June 30th of each year. The certificates and pins are in front of the school board members as you have, if you have earned one. So congratulations.
We finally got one, Andrew. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Ms. Shepherd?
That is it. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have, thank you very much. We have public comments, and the Shenandoah County School Board welcomes public comment during the most regular meetings and during public hearings. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting or hearing. Each speaker may speak up to 3 minutes. The board generally allows up to 60 minutes for public comments on agenda and non-agenda items at the beginning of the meeting. If there's a large number of speakers, the board may limit the total number time for comments or may reduce the time allotted for each speaker. All comments should address the matter related to Shenandoah County Public Schools. The school board will not hear public comments that involve a complaint about an individual staff member, a personnel action, a student disciplinary matter, a complaint about an individual student, or pending litigation. The school board expects each speaker to be courteous, modeling for our students how one can respectfully disagree with others' views. Speakers will address the comments of the entire school board and not to one individual board member, to the superintendent, or to a staff member, nor to the audience. Speakers will not engage in personal attacks. Speakers have signed up when you entered the room here at the school board office. Speakers will be called in order that they signed up. The first one is Carissa Jenkins. Good evening.
Good evening. Carissa Jenkins, Central High School librarian. The holiday season is right around the corner. I plan to celebrate in the library by asking students to participate in a writing challenge. The prompt will ask them to explain a book they've read that impacted them, similar to when they received the perfect holiday gift. In my experience, books often come to us at just the right time. A character's voice or struggle teaches us necessary life lessons. Authors find ways to reach readers where friends and family may fall short. The Young Adult Authors Challenge is to meet readers where they are. We've all been teenagers, so we know that they frequently turn a deaf ear when adults give life advice. Teens can have tough exteriors to crack, and they make it their mission to push boundaries. They often think they know best, and they refuse to listen to sound counsel. Characters in young adult novels mirror this stage of life. They are often insolent and rude. They can make controversial choices or contemplate ideas that result in a library book challenge. The disputable nature of these novels is the very thing that draws in many teen readers. You may have read The Outsiders, a nationally challenged book by S.E. Hinton. The main character, Ponyboy, is in a tough gang called the Greasers, who oppose the affluent socials. Both groups are contentious and make brash decisions with extreme consequences. Many teenagers who read this book relate to the mature content, and they are pulled into the jarring storyline. The controversial aspects of The Outsiders draw in teenagers. The valuable life lessons students take away in their hearts and minds after reading the book may have driven teachers to choose it for class instruction for over 50 years. A library is like a Christmas tree, overflowing with presents. The brightly wrapped packages need to be as diverse as the stories on our shelves. At one time or another, we've all received a gift that didn't quite fit. If this happens in the library, simply return it and find something that better suits your personal style. There is a gift for everyone under the tree, but the presents are not always interchangeable. For example, gifting an auto mechanic a How to Fix Engines for Dummies book will offend the receiver, but it could be the perfect choice for a beginner. Exercise equipment may offend the recipient who thinks it suggests needed weight loss. However, it could be the gift that inspires another to go the extra mile, resulting in him making the varsity team. A great school library includes worldly books ready to give to every student in the same way gifts under the tree are unique for family members. My job is similar to Santa Claus because he delivers presents under the tree and I deliver books to library shelves. The diversity of the gifts, or the books in my case, must reflect the wants and sometimes the needs of the person who receives them. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Stephen Heichman.
Good evening, school board members. Ms. Shepard, thank you for a few minutes of your time this evening. I wanted to just say a couple comments about a recent article that was in the Northern Virginia Daily pertaining to the weekly religious education. I'm sure most of y'all saw it, and it was inspiring to know that Miss Michaela Wetzel, the teacher of the classes and who's doing an outstanding job, she begins each session with the Lord's Prayer and ends with a prayer also. In one of the in one of the sessions, she had the kids drawing a tar surrounded by what's most important to them, not to be confused with a tower. And she said, we want to put God at the top of the tower. And Ms. Wetzel told the class after they finished, and then she asked why. And a little seven-year-old fella said, because he's always in our lives. These children are learning and absorbing the goodness that weekly education provides. They're being taught patience. In another instance, after some activities and returning to their tables, the children finished reading the passage about God commanding Abraham to sacrifice his only son that he had waited decades to have, that he was promised, to sacrifice him on an altar, only to stop him at the last minute. And a little 7-year-old girl raised her hand and said, it was a test, teacher. It was a test. God wanted to see if Abraham loved his son more than he loved God. And it's good to see that they are learning the stories in the gospel. There's currently about 35 students enrolled throughout the county, and I'm sure that will increase as time goes on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Is anyone else in the audience would like to speak? You raise your hand. Don't be bashful. Okay. Thank you all. Okay, moving on, colleagues. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Gutschall. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Keller. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. All right. Moving on. That's 37. Okay, information agenda. Dr. Heingardner, I think you have your first on the list about policies.
Right, in front of you, you see 3 drafts, all 6 are draft policies, but IIA, IIAB, and II-R. Those are 3 draft policies for information tonight for you to look at, to review, to consider. And then we have 3 versions of KLB, LB, and there's three versions there as well to be considered over the course of the next month, and then you would see these again for asking for approval of whichever one you would prefer. Can answer any questions about those. We've talked about them for several months now.
Comments? Ma'am, you could have spoke when we had public comments. You've been more than welcome. We will take this up in the December meeting. Is that not correct? So
there will be public comment in the December meeting before the vote.
So you're more than welcome to come back at that time. Okay, moving on, the school calendar survey. Ms. Shepherd.
Certainly. So the intent of the school calendar survey was to get input from our parents, our community, our teachers, our students on the adopted 2023-24 school calendar. The survey was published on Tuesday, October the 11th, and it closed on Monday, October the 24th. There were 1,906 responses to the calendar survey. So just a little information before we go into the actual survey. The survey could be submitted more than one time, and that was the limitation of our software that we had to do the survey. So somebody who wanted calendar A could have submitted 3 times, somebody who wanted calendar B could have submitted 3 times, and so on and so forth. The only way we could have respondents could have returned the survey one time would either have been to collect email addresses, which we would have had to have verified each one of those individually, or we could have asked them to sign into Google, to their Google account, and not everyone has a Google account. So I think, the way that we did it was much the same as the way that Hanover did it, and you could respond more than once on Hanover surveys as well, which we did in the past. So of the 1,906 respondents, 58% were parents or guardians, almost 20% were school staff or administrators, so teachers, paraprofessionals, so on and so forth. 13.4% were students, 5.4% were community members, and 3.4% were district staff or administrators, so those people from the school board office. The almost 44% of the respondents supported the calendar where school starts on August the 15th. Students are off for 2 days the week of the fair. High school students complete fall SOL testing before winter break, and the last day of school is around May the 24th. About 34% of the respondents, or 645 responses, supported the school calendar that started after Labor Day and ended around June 11th. 22.5% of the respondents, 428 responses, supported the calendar that started around August the 9th, had the entire week of fair off, and then the last day of school ended around May the 24th. So of the responses, you will notice that the majority of the responses were from Central High School at 22%. And that was about, let me look at my notes here, about 390 responses. 16.1% were associated with W.W. Robinson, about 280 responses. 13.6 was Mountain View High School, 213 Sandy Hook Elementary School, about 150 were Honey Run Elementary School, 140 Strasburg High School, 128 respondents were associated with Peter Muhlenberg, 113 Signal Knob, and 91 with North Fork. So of the responses to the question, which is most important to you as it relates to the school calendar, almost 30%, almost 29% said the first day of school as late as possible. 24.3%, the last day of school is as early as possible. Almost 20%, students do not have class during fair week. 8.4%, none of the above. 5.1%, the first day of school as early as possible. 4.6%, students do not have homework or assignments during the fair. 2.6% other, and 1.5%, the last day of school is as late as possible. So the recommendation based on the results of the survey is to keep the 2023-24 school calendar as adopted with 2 slight modifications. Would like to change the time for the parent-teacher conference. On the school calendar, it has that the November 7th, 2023 conference starts at 8:30 and goes to 3. We would like to change that from 12 noon to 7 p.m. to allow for parents who work during the day to have evening hours. And that has been some feedback that we received from parents and guardians about this actual parent-teacher conference that we had Tuesday this week. And then we would actually like to offer an additional parent-teacher conference on March the 11th. So change from a professional development day to a parent-teacher conference from noon to 7 to allow for parent-teacher conferences. So those are the recommendations. Be happy to answer any questions.
Comments?
So
Got y'all.
I was the one that kind of requested this because I had heard from people saying they were kind of unhappy with how it went this year, but it's especially related to the kids that are participating in the fair and the livestock and stuff like that. Again, today I received a call from a parent who's involved with that, and his kids have been involved with it for years. And, I'm going to support keeping it or, approving this one this year, but I do think that we need to make some adjustments. A concern that I was seeing, the kids that were participating in the FFA, when they would get back to school, they were having to make up an insane amount of work, and it seemed like the teachers maybe it wasn't a good combination as far as coming in late and them wanting to help a lot. So I think we're going to need to work closely with the teachers to ensure that they understand that these kids are going to be late, but they shouldn't be punished for participating in the fair, especially if we're excusing them for that very reason. So I think that I'm going to support, again, bringing it up next year and doing it on a one-year basis, especially after this year, to see if this second year goes any better than this year. I don't think there were a lot of major issues, but I don't think it's fair for some students to be punished because they want to be in the fair. For when they get back to school, they have to spend 2 weeks catching up on stuff. So that's kind of my view on it. But again, we did a survey. The majority came back. My stance on majorities with the surveys has kind of stayed the same throughout this year. It's not going to change on this. So I'll support sticking with this again. But I think we do need to make sure that the students are not being punished for wanting to do something that they've done for years on years. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yep. So Mr. Keller and I met with the 4-H and FFA Livestock Show and Sale group last evening, and we received a lot of great feedback from them. Of course, they would prefer not to have school during the fair, but they also advocated for some of the things that we can change that would help them. Mr. Keller?
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the things that we need to be able to say is, hey, in some situations, we didn't do a good enough job. I think so often when kids miss work or kids miss school, they're given a packet and they end up doing a lot of work that maybe the other kids didn't have to do when they were in the classroom. So I think we need to have a clear communication with staff about what our expectations are of students who miss time because of the fair, and be able to give them those opportunities to make up that work in enough time, give them enough time to be able to do that. I think the other thing we talked about that I'll throw out now is that I think as a school system we can do a better job of integrating stuff we do with the fair. One of the comments last night was about setting up a booth or a place for each of the campuses where they could kind of show their goods. So I think it was a good conversation. They would prefer that we not go to school at all that week, but I think they understand the dilemma that we're in with this. We know that starting early and taking that entire week off is probably not a good idea for our elementary kids. And we know that starting late in doing SOL testing after the holiday break, Christmas break, is not a good idea for our upper level kids. So we just need to keep on working until we can come up with something that works good.
Anyone else? Brandy?
I had a question. If you'll go back a couple, so the next one, Okay, so our highest number of respondents said they wanted to keep it right around August 15th, but when it was desegregated down, the highest amount was we want it as late as possible. So for me, I'm struggling with the fact that one, you could take it as many times as you wanted. Two, that 28% wanted it as late as possible, yet the largest amount on the back end wanted it around the 15th of so I mean, that for me isn't exactly jiving. I am curious to know, I did ask about the SOL testing, and so we can give SOLs anywhere from December 1st to December 22nd. And if I'm correct, the school buildings determine when those are. So I want to know when education stops and we start reviewing for those things. As far as keeping kids in a routine, I look at when we come back from Christmas break, and we used to always start January 2nd, the first day back. Now we're off 2 extra days for for a paraprofessional day, and we go back Thursday and Friday. So they've already been out, so now you're going to take them for 2 days. For me, it's if you can do it at one end of the calendar, you can do it on the other end of the calendar. So I do want to know when we determine, and I could be wrong in the way I'm looking at this, that I'm thinking that the extended days on the front end is to make sure with all these other testing that if we see that we're not where we could be for good results on that SOL, that we're building in days that we can make that up. It's not so much about the days and the length of what we've got going on. It's about making sure we have good results on the back end, because we can pick what day anytime in December to take those SOLs.
Yep, so a little bit about that. DOE gives us like windows that we can test. So we could test December the 1st through the 24th. We could test January the 1st through the 27th. It's like a 3 or 4 week window. So, and we pick those dates. And at the high school level, our students who make a 375 or above are able to retake to pass a test. So we have to allot some days in for that retake of those tests. So, but we're going to push that window as far back as we can and still allow for that retesting to occur as well. Right. Because as many instructional days that we can have, the better. And then to kind of address your question about the winter break, yes, our elementary teachers are having to reteach after the processes and the procedures and the classroom expectations after winter break. But for our kindergarten and our first graders, they're in school for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're out for, if it was 12 or, 11 or 12 days, that's a long period of time when they're just learning those processes. By December, January, they've had 4 or 5 months in order to be able to, to acclimate those processes to memory.
Okay. The other concern I had was how we treat, you mentioned work catching up. From my understanding, that if you filled out the form to be able to go to the fair, you were counted as present. So you were allowed to participate in your sports after school or whatever was going on that week. For those students that don't participate in the fair, if they missed that week, it was an absence. So we can't hold we can't hold double standards for the fair. If Kyle's parents decide that they're going to take vacation that week, and he's out, and he's of no, it's not him making that decision. We counted it as either an excused absence, but it went as an absence. If you're over here at the fair, regardless of what you're doing all day, you get counted as present. So, I don't know that that's the best policy that we can hold, to say, well, if you're not in the fair, you're held to the exact standard that we should be holding everybody to. Everybody should be either counted present or everybody should be in excused absence. You know, because it's kind of a double standard there.
So ag, FFA, and 4-H, FFA would be called a co-curricular activity, so it would be just like sending our kids to any of the national, state or national conferences. So, you know, so that, and those are excused absences as well. The 4-H, we have a policy that allows 4-H students to, and I believe it's just one day, but we have a policy that says, you know, 4-H students are excused for one day for 4-H reasons. And that is actually, I believe that's in code. I would have to double check that though, yeah.
Dennis?
So I'm a believer in crisp beginnings and crisp endings. And since I moved here, I've gotten appreciation. A lot of my friends have kids who are involved in the fair. And they have absolute total dedication and focus on that, and it's so wonderful to watch, and it's so important. And at the same time, I go back when I was teaching, and to me, to try to get those kids in class and start with history and get a love of that history and what's going on, a crisp, firm, hard beginning where all the kids are there and you're able to start from the when the gun goes off and everybody's together. That's important to me as a teacher. And so I'd hate to have, you know, 2, 5, 7 students not here, not there, and yet they're doing something that's incredibly important to them. And what I hear is we're doing a lot of workarounds to be able to do both at the same time, to do and apparently it's working to some extent. But I just really love it if we could go, I mean, especially when a large portion is saying that they'd like to come back as late as possible, to have off school until the fair's over, and then begin school, and then school is what everybody is focused on. Now, the problem is that the SOL tests get shortchanged, if you will, because there's that holiday period when apparently the mind's going to go to sleep, or whatever. And so I know that's a conundrum. What do we do to make sure that the SOLs are, because if we can solve that one, then we can actually use that pattern of starting late, having everybody off, including the teachers, for the, well, maybe not, maybe they'll be working to prepare things, but nevertheless, to have that fair week dedicated to fair activities. And so maybe, I'm not suggesting it for the next year, because I agree with Kyle that we, given the mechanics that you've already developed over the past several years, that we're able to kind of muddle through. But it would be interesting to see if we could have some sort of study or task force or something to see how we could address the SOL problem, such that if we could actually meet that challenge of feeling we were preparing the students to max their achievement on SOLs, then I would dearly love to see us have that clear boundary between the fair and the school. So I'll be glad to accede to the current, as Kyle suggested, for another year. But I'd love to see if there's some way we can, slice this Gordian knot and figure out how we could find an answer to the SOL question.
I have a couple things. So the difference between this question, I think, and the question about, the highest one was go back as late as possible, is this question was answered with some context, whereas that one was asked in a vacuum. What's your preference? What would you rather have? But this one, it included some information in it that isn't just, I want to start as early as possible, or I want to start as late as possible. It sort of shows you what the repercussions of the different options are. So I think that's the difference between the two questions. I want to remind everybody, this isn't just about SOL tests. It's also about aligning our calendar to the divisions around us for things like Gov School and sports and DE classes and LRCC classes and all of that. So it's not just about the SOL test. Yes, that's part of it, and that's an important part of it, but it's not the only reason that we looked at it to do it this way. And then also, I think on the curriculum stuff that Kyle brought up at the beginning, maybe we should look at what the teachers do later in the year when kids are off for 4 days for an FFA trip. You know, the middle schoolers just got back. They were in Indianapolis maybe for 4 days. So maybe there is something to be found there in what they do then. Maybe they teach for mastery that week. That's something I just learned recently. So, you know, there's lots of things that we can look at to address those issues. I think that was it.
I'd like to thank Andrew for attending the meeting last night with Ms. Shepherd about hearing input from the 4-H and the FFA parents or whatever. I thought that this year was a good compromise. Went to school for three days, and especially the third day, the 5th grade had a field trip to the fair, and we've heard many of them mention that was the first time they attended the fair. And then Thursday and Friday, they have off from school, whatever. And then a suggestion that has not been verified with the president of the Fair Association is move Kids Day to Thursday, one day that they have off. But I don't know whether they have done that or whatever. That's it, their decision to make. So, thanks for the input. And I assume do we need to make the change about the Parent-Teacher Conference Day in the calendar for 23-24? Or is just an understanding?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's the same day, it's just different hours.
I think it's an administrative change, and we can make that change on the calendar. Absolutely.
Can we make it for 2023?
I think we can.
I'm looking at a teacher workday.
Yeah.
Okay, if you got something planned.
Yeah. So we have some professional development planned
So
for that
there
day.
is no parent conference for the second semester.
For the second semester, not this year.
Theoretically, you see the flaw in that.
Yes, absolutely. That's why we would like to correct it next year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I heard complaints that this parent-teacher conference, which was Tuesday, it was from 8:30 to 4.
3:30.
Whatever, and people working has a hard time scheduling that, whatever, so for next year, we took care of that. Okay, anything else on the school calendar for 23-24? Okay, moving on. 4.3, Shenandoah County School Board Association proposed legislative position amendments. Ms. Shepherd.
Yes, at the October 27th, 2022 school board work session, there was consensus by the Shenandoah County School Board to abstain from voting on the proposed Virginia School Board Association legislative positions amendments. At the same meeting, there was discussion by the school board regarding taking a local position on the proposed VSBA legislative positions amendments. Tonight, the school board will need to decide if there is interest in taking a local position on the proposed amendments, and if so, we will vote on the local position at the December 8th school board meeting. And attached to this agenda item are the legislative position amendments.
Okay, Ms. Walsh, you voted one day this week?
Today.
You went today?
3.5 hours this afternoon. Lots of words.
You want to give a summary of those 3.5 hours?
Sure. So basically, there were 12 amendments to 12. Well, there were amendments to 12 positions. They were very basic, short. People were confused about what the purpose of the voting was for. A lot of people wanted to talk about the position itself and not the amendment, so there was a lot of correcting of process. It was suggested several times that school boards who did not like the process start earlier next year to get involved in the process, and I think that's similar to what I said as well. Start at the beginning, start when the legislature goes in, start following bills, and go from there. All of the positions ended up passing. We voted for 9 of them separate from the block. All of them ended up passing. Yeah, all of them ended up passing. There was one that was amended to include the bus one. It was amended to include and propane, because I guess some schools are moving to propane buses. I abstained from every single vote, including procedural votes. I could have been helpful on procedural votes, but I didn't. I abstained because I didn't know what you guys would want me to do. So.
Thank you.
I was the only one on many of them.
As far as taking a local stance, I did reach out to Elizabeth Ewing today so I could get some understanding on how some of these worked. We can take a local stance. I think there's over 200, almost 250 legal positions that the VSBA takes. We can opt out of those and take local positions on those at any time. And I would hope that, maybe we look at those a little bit at a time, blocks of 10 or whatever, and decide whether that's what we plan to do if we're going to support it. I asked her about how it's written, the lingo, and the fact that some of these things are so broad. And she said that was by design. So her example, a bad example, she said at that, but it was a short conversation, was the school buses. No, actually it was broadband. So, there's a legislative position here about extending broadband. And, had the VSBA taken a position that they thought, well, they wanted state legislators to, come up with a proposal that, say, 95% of the county needed to be on broadband, needed to have access to that. And they went into a legislative position, or they went into, to session. It's been a long day, guys, sorry. And somebody, a bill on the floor suggested it was going to be 85%. Well, because we stuck with 95 in our legislative position, we couldn't do that. So she said, if we said we support, broadband being expanded across the county, and that was our stance. Say a bill came around and it was, our legislators had decided that they wanted the state to be on the hook for broadband, and they wanted, say, tax, for high-risk families, they wanted it to be free. Our stance at that point might be something along that line, and we would be able to say, sure, we're all for that. It gives them a whole lot of leeway. If bills come up, they're catching bills. Now, I'm not exactly sure how lobbying all happens and what goes on. I know that Stacey Haney and these folks have full-time legislators. How they end up going and determining which bills they may hook onto, whether it really represents Shenandoah County or not, is something else. And of course, I've not been quiet on my views on using taxpayer money for lobbyists. I don't think that that's something that we ought to be asking taxpayers for, and especially when we don't really or can't guarantee what they're gonna lobby for once they get there. The third question I asked was how many of these legislative positions have actually made it into legislation, and she couldn't tell me. So I did email Mr. Kessler to ask him, because I'm curious. You know, if some of these things, like number 11, the TiVo bill, you know, has to do with the TiVo bill. Me personally, I'm all on board with homeschoolers being able to come and participate. Their tax dollars, they're still giving them. You know, the VSBA sent, when Governor Youngkin came into office and, you know, had determined that parents get to decide on masking, we got an email that says, hey, reach out to your legislators and push back against this. I sent an email back and said, absolutely not. You know, parents should have a say-so on masking. So they have 250 legislative positions. Some of them I know my constituents wouldn't want to sign on for. So I hope that we can take these and look at them. I would hope that we can take a local position, because, again, we can abstain. We lost the vote. They all passed anyway, and what will happen is if we don't take that local position, we still go in as agreeing to them on their end of things when they go into legislation, into lobbying for these things. And I don't find that to be a democratic process, or a true process. I find it to be appalling that I have to come back and actually take a vote, just to make sure that we're not, somebody in Richmond doesn't get the idea that we want tax dollars for electric buses here. So that is my stance on it.
So two things. One thing I forgot to say about today, and then the TiVo bill one passed by one vote today. So that's one where I could have helped have that vote been on the other side, So I do think it's important that we take positions on these amendments in the future. The TiVo bill passed, or not the bill, but the position passed 42 to 41. And there were, I think, 4 people who abstained on that one. Melanie probably already told you that, but because she was on there. And then the other thing is many, many school boards have legislative committees, and we don't. So rather than taking full board time, maybe we either need to have an ad hoc legislative committee or a couple of people who are willing to take this on as a project and then make a recommendation, rather than having the whole board discussing 250 positions.
Dennis?
Well, actually, I think that's a good idea. I wouldn't mind at all coming up with a committee, because I was completely uninformed. Maybe it's partly my fault. No, it wasn't all my fault. At this pretty arcane labyrinth of bureaucracy to be able to do this. Because apparently, I guess we could have, at some time this spring, we could have actually, as school board members, or excuse me, as a school board, I guess we could have gone to the VSBA and said we have some ideas. But there's a spring call by the VSBA Legislative Positions Committee. I don't remember getting that call, but I'm assuming it went out. And then
I forwarded you the email. I forwarded it to all of you. You should have received it.
There wasn't much discussion about what we're going to do.
Yep.
Then, and then that goes quickly back to the Legislative Positions Committee at VSBA, and then when they get through taking a look at what they like, then it goes to the Board of Directors, and then it comes to us and with 45 days to make decision. And so, as I pointed out before, we had 1 meeting's time in which to digest these. Now, I've read these 12 positions a dozen times in the last month. It's still hard to understand what these are all about. I do not understand why we don't have particular specific nuggets that we could be for. The reason the TiVo bill, I think, that was the only one I could actually say yes is a yes or no to, because the others were so incredibly broad about what they could be and what they encompass, all the way from, one of them had to do with trailers. It has to do with making the schools in the underserved portions look as good as the wealthiest schools. Their words, not mine. And then it winds up with telling us that we're going to be supporting a way to have more cost-efficient, energy-efficient renovations. And so And by the way, when we turn those back, they go back to the board of directors once again, and they're the ones that decide how our lobbyists will present them. So once this kind of trickles down to us and we, rubber stamp and it goes back up, you know, that's our legislative or democratic process in this. It takes a lot of effort for us to do that. And then trying to figure out which one of these, I mean, as you point out, there are, I don't know how many pages these 12 were, but I'm guessing, let's say 20, 25 pages, maybe that. To be able to figure out how that's going to be presented by our lobbyists is something we would have no idea, or which particular aspect of that thing is going to be promoted, we have no idea and no control over. So I'd like to be able to vote on these 12 next time just to get some idea of how we feel, but frankly, it was almost impossible for me to come up with a summary of what it was all about. Now, in the little booklet that we had, in the 12 amendment positions, it explains in paragraph after paragraph, and then it gives a summation, which sometimes doesn't even flow from the explanation. And so all I would like is some precision about what it is that we're supporting or not supporting. That precision is not there. And this afternoon, I spent most of the afternoon trying to figure out how we would vote on these individually. And I just don't know. And not forget about whether we had a chance to make input or whatever. I really had the idea that other than the last one, I would have no idea what I'm really voting on here. So, and I don't think it's at all clear. And I look at all the others that are on the, Brandy talks about the 250 that are out there. So, so maybe we do need some sort of legislative committee that will try to make some sense out of it and boil it down. And even though it's a huge effort, you know, trying to work through all these and then send it to the board of directors so that they can look at it and get back to us. And by the way, we need to do that after the 45-day period. So they give us these, and we decide what it is we'd like to discuss, and we have only a week and a half to get that back to them and for them to decide whether our opposition to it or our questions about it are germane, and they could decide they're not. So we send it to them and say, Mother, may I? And they say, yes, you may, or you may not. And we're stuck with that decision until it's made. And afterwards, we can go back again, as Brandy indicated, and say, we as a school board don't really agree with that. It seems like an incredibly bad waste of our time to have to go through all that. And it almost doesn't feel worth it because you feel like kind of the fix is in before it even starts. But if we can get some greater participation in this thing as part of a legislative committee to look at that, that's fine. But it's a lot of effort to be able to pull it out with all these 250. I mean, it's page after page after page, and I have no idea what we really would be signing up for by the time it gets into the hands of the lobbyist.
And that's probably why there's a whole lot of just rubber stamping and going. We hand the VSBA $25,000, I believe, and, you know, we take their training and we do that, and then, you know, either the lobbying positions, either it's an important thing or it's not an important thing. For me, to have our name attached to something that we may not want it to be attached to, and still be sending them money with no idea if it's actually going for something that represents Shenandoah County is a problem for me. So, you know, I'm okay with you know, I'll be happy to serve on that legislative committee. You know, I don't have a problem doing that. We've already started digging into these, and, you know, something that we can do and just present it, you know, as a vote at some point. If anybody wants to be involved in that, or, you know, if you don't, like I said, you know, 250 of them, and some of them are pretty hot topics. So, you know,
I think we had the exact same conversation now that we had at the work session. So I think we need to decide what we're gonna do. And if that's having a committee or a project to delve into them, let's do that. But I think we've sort of talked it to death now. Because this one's already done, so we need to decide what to do going forward and whether we're gonna take local positions. So I think that's where we are. I do not want to serve on that committee.
What are the wishes of the other? Brandy says she'll serve on, I mean, you and Dennis are on the policy committee. You want to absorb that?
I don't have a problem with it.
That's fine.
I do think one thing about this, though, is this needs to be board-driven. So this is going to require a lot of board work and not a lot of staff work, because this is board work. So, so just keep that in mind. There are some things that we have to lead, and that would be one of them.
No, I mean, the Constitution gives that to us to do, so I wouldn't dare think about asking the staff to take this on. I think this is definitely our baby.
It's at the legislative breakfast the other day, I sat with a member of Rockham County School Board, and I raised this, how they were affected this, and she said, well, I haven't looked at them yet, and we're voting on them maybe this week or whatever. So I think all boards are struggling with this, how to handle it, whatever. Okay. Moving on, Ms. Shepherd, the Physical Activity Award Program for school personnel.
Certainly. On October 20th, Governor Youngkin, in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education, announced a 2022-23 Governor's Physical Activity Award Program for school personnel. The program emphasizes the connection between regular physical activity and its benefits to overall health and wellness. By making daily physical activity a priority, the adults in schools set an example for students. The award program provides a structure and incentive for school employees to exercise weekly. Participating school employees will log their activities over the course of 16 weeks, with a 2-week extension allowed in the event of illness or unforeseen circumstances. All school personnel are encouraged to participate. By completing and documenting their activities, participants qualify for the following awards: Bronze Award, 150 minutes or more of movement 3 days a week; Silver Award, 200 minutes or more of movement 4 days a week; the Gold Award, 250 minutes or more of movement 5 days a week; and the Platinum Award, 250 minutes of movement 5 days a week, which includes muscle strengthening activities at least 2 days a week. In order to meet the 16-week physical activity period, school personnel will need to document their physical health starting the last week of December. School personnel should document their activities on the Physical Activity Award, which is attached to this agenda item, and the activity award will need to be signed by the participant supervisor by April 18th, 2023. The supervisor will send the completed form to Linda Hodges, Director of Human Resources, and then we will submit the activity log to the Virginia Department of Education by the April 20th deadline. Be happy to answer any questions. I know this is something that Mr. Barlow had asked us to pursue.
As long as it's voluntary, I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it should be a requirement, but I'm fine with it being voluntary.
Other comments?
Well, I'd like to say, no, there's no way this be mandatory, but I do recall when I was in junior high school that President Kennedy started a kind of physical fitness program that was instituted for the students, and it was a very, very popular program. And I was glad to see that Governor Youngkin had kind of the same concept and applying it to teachers and staff. And I think it's a good thing that we, as an organization, endorse in terms of just giving an opportunity to our staff and teachers to be able to have some school condoned way of doing this, to have some sort of recognition for the fact that they want to, engage in something that can help them physically stay more physically fit. And I think it's a win-win for us, and I hope that we would encourage our staff and our teachers to participate. A good time to take a look at the whole body, the whole concept, as well as the physical and the intellectual, and having that thing actually endorsed and overseen for some sort of recognition and some extra impetus, let's say, just to start a program on your own. And this is an individual thing, but I'd like to see the school system actually support and endorse the governor's initiative. And to the extent that people want to get involved, that's wonderful. And to the extent that the school system can support and encourage, that's wonderful too.
Anything else? I think it's an excellent program, and also it may help to reduce our health costs if the employees are healthier and exercise and do the things, if this is not too burdensome of something they need to fill out or whatever, or for Ms. Hodges to compile whatever. And it may be, to get it started, maybe it's a competition between schools, high school, middle school, and elementary, and to get the participants to sign up or whatever, or campus-wise. So, we're on board for that? Okay, moving on. We're action items. Personnel is next. Do I hear a motion to approve the personnel?
I move to approve the personnel list as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Gutschall. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Rutz?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. Okay, next is the proposed calendar for the budget preparation on 24. Ms. Shepherd?
So it's an action item. Roll call vote. Questions? Motion.
Oh, excuse me. It
Motion.
passes
Sorry.
6-0. Sorry. No?
Got to vote first.
Oh, okay.
You've already moved on to the next one, haven't you, Mark?
Okay, yes.
Is-
I thought I did. Excuse me.
5-2.
5-2, calendar.
Motion.
I move that we accept the proposed budget development calendar as presented.
The motion made by Ms. Walsh. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Rutz. Discussion. Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Rutz?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. It passes 6-0. Next, under action items, is the Mount Jackson New Market Little League practice facility at Mountain View High School. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I move that we approve the Little League MOU practice facility at Mountain View High School.
Motion made by Ms. Walsh. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. Discussion. Roll call vote.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Rutz?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes, it carried by a 6-0 vote. Superintendents, moving on. Superintendent's monthly report. Anything for Ms. Shepherd?
So I would just like to congratulate all of our sports teams that are moving on to the regionals and states. We have 2 football teams that are playing as we speak in some regional competition. And then we have some students who will be participating in Salem in the cross-country meet on Saturday. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How's Central doing right now?
Central's up 7-6 at halftime. Strasburg's up 28-0.
Wow. Thank you for.
Thank you.
Anything else about the monthly reports? I see attendance is staying about in the 93% range,
Yeah, we need it a little higher.
as always. Okay, hearing none, board member comments. Who would like to start? Or should I call on somebody? Andrew?
Pass.
Ms. Rutz?
Yeah, just briefly, my last 2 days, I spent a lot of time on the phone with several parents. I would just like to remind folks, we have policies in place. Please do not feel that you shouldn't use them, or you're not supported in using them, or you shouldn't look at them. We have them in place for a reason. And if we stop to the point that we ignore policy, that basket to hand, that hill to handbag in a hill or whatever, the road to hell is pretty quickly to get there. And we don't need, we talk about environments at home conducive to learning, but we should have environments within our buildings that are conducive to learning. And, we understand that there's, extenuating circumstances sometimes, and things of that nature. But when I hear of teachers that leave, subs that leave the building in tears and don't feel supported by their building administrator, or they think that there is, that they can't come any higher. It's disturbing to think that if there's a teacher that can't get satisfaction on something in their building, that they can't come to us in this building or to the schools, or to, without experiencing some repercussions. And it's a very real, I have heard it since before, when I was campaigning last year. We can't say anything because our job's on the line, or they will get me one way or the other. And that is a toxic environment, and I, in no way, shape, or form, thinks that should be it. And it may not. My personal opinion, it started with our last administrator, and I think we'll be cleaning that mess up for a long time. But I hope that we can work on some processes. Rather, we need to look, and I suggested that we look at our, our student conduct handbook, and look to see if that meets our needs. I know that COVID has screwed the pooch, so to speak, in conduct, and we have to teach these kids how to what's expected and the expectations when they're back in our classrooms. And that's going to take some time, but you can't do it if you're all over the place with not clear, concise, what's expected, what's not expected, and rules and regulations. Again, we've made policy, stick to it. If there's issues, please reach out. I did get an email from, I think it was Bedford County, who has a Bill of Rights for parents and for teachers, and it's pretty good. I'm going to forward it to you because I think it's something that we should look at. And one of the things is that we can open our communication with our teachers, our staff, without them feeling that there's going to be repercussions if they say something. I've also again, ask you for referrals. I'd like to know, how many referrals we're getting. I want to know how bad it is, if it's as bad as what I'm hearing it is, or if it's just blown out of proportion. But, when I hear from all ends of the counties that our subs are walking out and our teachers are walking out in tears and don't feel supported, I'm a little worried about that. So, again, don't be afraid to use the policies that we have. We have to. And, if there's something that needs to be addressed and you don't feel like it's being addressed, call me. We'll have a conversation. I'll push it to the right people. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I don't want our staffing issues to be, to continue to grow. I don't want them to be an option. I want people to stay. We have some wonderful people on staff in this building and in all the other 10 buildings we have. So, it's a tough job, and I don't necessarily think pays it. I think it's not paid enough to deal with it. So, please reach out.
Thank you. Mr. Gutschall.
Go Falcons.
Mr. Barlow.
Well, I'm just going to pick on what Brandy said for a minute. I think a few weeks ago we were kind of shocked when we saw the extent of the plunging academic performance that we all kind of knew was there, but we found out, according to the Secretary of Education of Virginia, that it preceded our response to COVID by 2 years. So from 2017 to now, we've had some pretty declining, dismal numbers. And I credit our superintendent with taking that issue on head on, and with a staff that seems to be dedicated to reversing that trend. And so far, it's looking really good. And I think that's a tribute to the school system that's operating even as we're operating today. But and you've actually taken issues or policies that have to do with the phones, use of phones, discipline, and dress code, all of which are really hard to codify. And you've done a really good job of taking the policy and coming up with operational guidelines for what needs to be done. And now we're at that very, very difficult position of actually doing it. And so as some of the issues that we hear about and see and get phone calls about come in, I would like to emphasize to our administrators, to our teachers, to our staff, that in adhering to these standards that you and we have set, that I would urge you to be consistent, not intermittent with our application. I would ask you to be fair to everyone so that everybody's playing on the same field and not, so fairness, not favorites. And then to be firm. When you've given this much license or freedom to kids over the years and then trying to draw them back into line, it's not easy. It's hard. It's something that's painful to both sides, but something that's necessary, and I think it's necessary for us to face up to this. So I think we're at that point where we're taking the policy and the operational nuggets and putting that bridge to where it's just about meeting, and that's the hardest thing, is just joining that bridge in the middle where you want it to meet. And I think we're there, and I think we have to realize that that's the toughest thing, is to join those together. So I think we need, as a community, as an educational community, to work on that together and to realize that's a really, really tough nut to crack, but something that we have to face. Probably the toughest thing we probably will have to do all year. So.
Thank you. Ms. Walsh.
Really quick, I didn't bring this up during the policy section because I didn't want to get into a long discussion. I still have serious issues with the KLB-LB policy, but I will send it to you all in an email to save time. If any board members would like to talk about any of them separately, give me a call. there are a couple of things I think we need to amend, such as having an 8-member board. What if it's split? You know, so I will send that to you. I won't get into it tonight. We need to remember that respecting the professionals is another thing that is incumbent upon us if we want to teach the good ones, if we want to keep the good ones. So we need to just be mindful of when we are stepping on toes, and we want to keep the good employees. Oh yeah, the Central Strasburg game was an amazing game. And the thing that I was struck by was that the two teams, the kids, were so supportive of each other, helping each other up, and you know, it was a good game. Strasburg deserved to win. They played better that night, but it was a really, really good game. And go Central, go Strasburg. Maybe we can play one more time if we both keep winning. Doubtful, but maybe we can. So that was it.
Okay, I know what Kyle wants to go to the game, so I'll be brief. I want to reiterate what Steve Heisman said about the weekday religious education on the front page of the NVD. What a great article! And if we help 30 kids get on the right path, it's a program well worth it. So, Steve, I also saw that. The other one was in the day, sometime this week, Wednesday. It says Clark County supervisors pursue state funding change for education. And as we all know, that the funding we get from Richmond is based on the composite index. And the Clark County Board of Supervisors chairperson was shocked to realize that Clark's index was 0.5728, while Loudoun, one of the most affluent counties in the state, was 0.5450. And I asked Ms. Shepherd this evening, ours is 0.3832. And I called Jeff Walters about this funding index has got to be changed somehow to be more equitable about the ability for our county to pay. And it's not just on the taxpayers' back. So, you know, that was something I thought, and Jeff assured me. The other thing, my good friend brought a language arts, improving your language, from Columbia Furnace Elementary School. Dated in 52, 56, they checked them out and whatever. But on the inside cover, Chad, why did we go away with common sense things in language arts? And I'm just going to read 3 things. Some important rules for language jobs. Conversation and discussion. Do your part and help others to take part. Give everyone a chance to talk. Listen carefully. If you do not understand something, ask for an explanation. Be courteous, avoid interrupting. Talk about pleasant things. Avoid embarrassing questions. Talk little about yourself. Keep to the subject on discussion. Do not talk too long at a time, which I'm probably doing this evening, so I'm breaking that. But common sense from 52, so this book is 70 years old, if my math is right. Why did we get away from common sense in education? And then finally, I got one more thing, and then I'm going to close with something comical. It's about me, so you can laugh. I want to commend Steve Eichmann is here. He and I have been friends all our lives, and obviously we were on opposite sides about the renaming issue. And we haven't spoken to each other since June when we took that vote. But he reached out to me Saturday morning, and we had a good conversation at the farm about our friendship, and this should not get in the way of that. And I appreciate that, Steve. You don't know how much. And then the comical thing is Monday, I didn't have my secretary with me at Triplet Tech, and it was honoring the personnel in our cafeterias. And, of course, it was at Paige Cross's diner that is 5 stars, so you know I'm not going to miss that dinner. And Dr. Eingartner spoke, and they asked me to speak, and for some reason I was addressing the transportation employees. Okay? I don't know why. It was the biggest snafu in 3 years I served on the board. But so I want to say to the staff of the cafeterias, if I would have pinpointed in, you all serve for many of our students the best meal they get a day, both breakfast and lunch. And I missed that point badly, okay? But I did add, you all going to get a Christmas bonus so you can start shopping on Amazon.com. So, but anyway, I apologize for the cafeteria workers. It was my mistake, and I will end it at 8:32. Thank you.
So Kyle, any changes in the scores?
Nope.
Where are we at, halftime or?
Rollsburg just got that.
Yes.